Hey, what's up, guys? It's Drew from the Money Is Show. And today we got a special guest, one of my favorite type of guests, which are business owners as well as athletes. I think there's so many parallels between what does it take to be a successful athlete and then what does it take to be a successful business owner. There are so many parallels there that are connected there that I want to talk about. Our guest today, his name is Bergman, a 10-year professional baseball player, played for the Colorado Rockies as well as the Seattle Mariners. Uniquely, while being on the road, traveling nonstop as a minor league baseball player, he started buying up single-family homes inside of real estate, knowing he needed to do something else besides just minor league baseball. After he got out of being a professional baseball player, he moved into apartment complexes. The question is, bro, why did he move inside of apartments? Why go from single families into apartment complexes? I'm going to ask him a lot of questions today about why he did that, as well as the parallels between sports success as well as business success in his current business model, which is buying apartment complexes. He is from Phoenix, Arizona. Bergman, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks. Appreciate you having me. Having a blast so far.
Yeah, dude. These are my favorite days of my office time. It's really not office time. I just basically sit here and get to talk to really cool people and figure out why you're successful and try to steal as much as I can of that formula from you, which is what we hope to deliver to the show today, so they can take some of your success principles, habits as well. Let's talk about baseball first. I love this side of it. Talking to all athletes, UFC fighters, after NFL, basketball, and of course baseball. Baseball being my favorite. Dude, there's so many parallels between sports and athletics and business, and really just life in general. I think there's so much we can learn while playing sports as young children that apply to real life stuff that we end up going through. You agree with that?
Absolutely. One of the biggest influences I had very early on was a high school coach.
Okay.
And I had lots of coaches throughout my whole career, some of them with extensive major league playing careers. I always go back to that first high school coach I had.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't even really teaching baseball. Sure, there was some baseball in there, but some of the things that he really impressed upon us was stuff like you're saying, stuff that applies to life in general, to business, passion, taking responsibility for yourself, all kinds of stuff like that. So, yeah.
It's amazing when you talk to any, not just professional athlete, but all the, let's put them in a fun bucket called wannabes, myself included, that played high school ball and even college ball. It's amazing when you talk to them, how many of them go back to a high school coach.
Yeah.
Like you said, and that really wasn't even like great extensive career in any type of baseball. Maybe didn't even know that much about baseball, but molded lives constantly on characteristics of life. And there's so many inside of sports. I always think about in sports is the amount of teamwork that goes into sports that also goes into business. Like we all the stuff we've done today, dude, there's a team that it takes to put that together right there, right? And you learn how to work with others when others fail, how not to blame everything on them. Like, there's so many lessons of teamwork that you learn that apply to sports as well as baseball. Give me one more really cool principle. If I stole teamwork, what's another cool principle that you learned from maybe from an early age, high school, about playing in the sport as well as apply later in business or life in general?
Well, I kind of already mentioned it, and that's passion.
Passion, okay.
Yeah. If you're not passionate about what you're doing,
yeah, that's good.
Number one, you're probably not going to do what it takes to be successful.
Yeah.
And number two, you're going to probably be miserable.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that I think, continue down a certain road or do things that they don't want to do because they feel like they have no choice. Well, ultimately, we all have a choice.
Yep.
And so, being passionate about what you're doing, I think, is one of the most important things because, playing in high school is great, playing in college is great. The real test starts to come if you ever get the chance to go professional. And, like you said, a lot of people think they want to do it.
Yeah.
But, and let's even rewind back to high school. Are you willing to not, go do fun stuff with your friends because you got to work on, hitting or whatever the case may be? In college, are you willing to, sacrifice going out, doing
parties.
stuff like that, parties, because you got to go to practice? And, maybe it does, but I don't think it gets talked about very much. Just the amount of work that goes into being a student athlete in college is insane.
Yeah.
And I had to schedule all my classes as much as I could to be in the morning because practice was in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And actually before the morning classes, we were up at 6 a.m. running or lifting weights.
Yeah.
Then you go to class, then you go to practice. You don't really have time for much else. So if you don't like playing baseball, you're going to quit right there.
Right.
Why am I subjecting myself to all this? It doesn't have to be baseball. It can be anything.
Yeah, there's so much truth in that. You know, I use the word passion in kind of my 3 pillars. I always talk about inspire, impact, and influence. And in inspire, it's what I'm talking about. Like, dude, you got to do what you love. You got to do what you're passionate about. And I know probably even some people watching it today, you're in this position where you're not doing what you wanted to go do. You're not living the life that you want to go live. And I know it is, and it sounds easy for me to say, for a Christian to say, man, you got to do what you love. But I'm telling you, if you do what you love, bro, you'll find so much happiness. I'm not even talking about money.
Right.
It's about just happiness, just joyfulness, about life. Everything becomes like bright and vivid colors almost.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I talk about the minor league baseball for just a little bit if we can. Even someone like me who like loved baseball growing up, wanted to be, you know, a baseball player as a kid and dreamed of it, but when you're in there talking about, oh yeah, so you know, we would take 13-hour bus trips like every week, sleeping on a bus with stolen pillows from the Hampton Inn.
I exchanged them.
Yeah, you just brought them back and forth as you went, and you know, making, I don't know, on average $1,500 a month to go play baseball for 5 months of the year. The other 7 months is like, well, you're on your own. Go figure it out.
Right.
Like, dude, like I loved baseball and I was passionate about it, but I don't know if I was that passionate. Like that's you know what I mean? Like even in there, I said, I don't think I would have done that. And part of it is just understanding, like when you don't love something, it takes that passion to say, oh yeah, I'll go do that.
Right.
And I think that the other thing that people don't think enough about is even in the passion, there's also sacrifice.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Just because you're passionate and love something doesn't mean every day is going to be fun.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you know, you will sacrifice to get to a higher goal, whatever that is. And if you believe in that higher goal, then you will do what it takes to get there when, you know, stuff gets really tough. And when you're in the minor leagues and sitting on a bus for 13 hours and almost getting hit by a semi and oncoming traffic and you know, eating terrible food, not making any money. Like, you better love playing baseball. I don't love those other parts,
Right.
but I loved the process of becoming a better pitcher and improving, and obviously the game itself is important.
I want to talk about that word a little bit more because I think it's a word that maybe is not addressed enough in business, in life, in relationships, and that's the word sacrifice. And a lot of times in, you know, interviews or podcasts and so forth, we talk about how glorious and glamorous, and especially like social media today, right? Like, there's so many parts of social media that are literally absolutely fake. Like, it's a staged freaking photo, bro. Like, that person didn't even go there. Like, it's like so staged to certain degrees. And it's because we have this like persona of like, we have to be this certain thing. The amount of sacrifice that it takes to be in a healthy, good relationship is insane. The amount of sacrifice it takes to be in a good, growing business, oh, it's insane. The amount of sacrifice it takes to be a great baseball player is insane. And I just think that word sacrifice is, because it's not a glamorous word, is just not talked about enough. What do you think about sacrifice?
Yeah, and you know, we've touched on already, there are so many sacrifices you have to make at every stage.
Yeah.
And you know, money's just one of them.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes relationships have to get sacrificed. Hopefully they're not the most important ones, but you know, there's certain things that I guess you need to get rid of in order to make way for, you know, whatever that ultimate goal is.
Let's do this. I've never done this before,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go a little bit deeper here on the sacrifice thing with you, because with the minor league, maybe just hit home of like how much sacrifice, like me wanting like dreaming of being a baseball player, kind of maybe it hit me. Let's just take just a second here. Let's talk about business, because at the end of the day, you left baseball, went into business. You have your own business inside of real estate investing. You're an apartment investor. I want to talk just briefly about, like, let's just now go to the business side of it and talk about some things that quickly come to mind. Let's just name some things that we have sacrificed to get to the point of business. Okay? I've never done this before.
Yeah, I'm down.
I've never even done it to myself before. And I'm just thinking that, like, last night, so I'll go first, and let's just go tip for tip, not comparing, but just kind of go through it so other ones can think. I can think of, like, we had an event this week, and me and my majority of my team were here from, I don't know, 7 a.m. to freaking 10 p.m. No extra pay, no like extra benefit. It was just like, well, that's what you got to go do. They sacrificed family time, husband-wife time, father's children time was sacrificed just to help us get an event off, like myself included. But, like, dude, that was immediate sacrifice that was given to go be successful at something.
Right.
What's another sacrifice?
We're talking strictly business?
Yeah, let's do business.
Most immediate one I can think of.
That people are gonna, like you went through, but
Yeah.
they're both like gonna go through this as well.
Yeah. So I sacrificed money
Okay.
to enroll in, like, a coaching program
Yeah.
for flipping houses.
Yeah.
Only to find out that I hated flipping houses. So not only did I sacrifice the money to learn that I hated that,
Yeah.
but I also bought a deal as well,
Yeah.
and then took a little bit of a loss on that one.
that you
Confirmed
hated
it. Confirmed I hated it.
The
So that was a sacrifice. But
yeah.
the lesson that came out of that potentially could be more important than the money that I sacrificed to learn that. Because, I mean, I'm sorry to go off on a tangent here, but you know, what if I spent 2 years? If in the interest of not spending $10,000 to $15,000, whatever it is, to speed up the curve to find out that I didn't like that, what if I spent 2 years of my life trying to find out, trying to make something work?
Playing with it, trying to test it, figure it out, because you're not going to be able to get it done or the amount that you went through in 4 months
Right.
might have taken you 2 years the other
Right.
way. Yeah.
I can't get 2 years of my life back.
That's gone, dude.
I can get 15 grand back.
That's
You
true.
know?
That is a great way to put it, man. That is a great way to put it. I wish I'd have had that knowledge, like that phrase right there, like 3 years ago in my career. I think another thing that if you want to be in business, that you're probably gonna have some sacrifices in, and I'm gonna use this time like to almost deter you from even doing business if you're listening. Like, I'm super close to my family, but to grow to my next stage of my success in business and so forth, I had to move away. Not I didn't want to, they didn't want me to, but I had to move away. And I have to sacrifice, like, being away from my immediate family, if you will, for my journey and my path that I got to go down. And a lot of times, again, like, if you're not, I'm going to go back to, if you just don't want to put in the sacrifice, dude, it's not all glamour. When you walked on that mound for the first time for the Rockies, and you walked up and put those cleats on that white rubber mound, dude, if you stop and just put yourself right there and think about, dude, how much did you give up to be in that very moment right there? And if you sat here for like an hour and thought about it, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
The amount of relationships, time, family, money, energy that you spent on that. And I think that's the point that, again, we're kind of wrapping this up, is just like business and success is not always about the glamour side, dude. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into it.
And it goes back to, you have to be passionate about it, because there are people out there who are passionate about what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And they will do the things
That's true, man. That's a great point.
that you may not be willing to do, and that's why they will beat you out, because they're not going
Wow.
to feel sorry for you.
Man.
You know, that was a saying we used to always say when we were playing, and, you know, say we had injuries or, you know, bad travel schedule, like, the other team's not going to feel bad for us. You
They
know?
could care less.
They
But
don't care.
they're happy about it.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna steal this from you, because I think there's so much truth in what you're saying right now. and I want to kind of hit on it for a second because I'm gonna take this from you because it is some wisdom you just dropped right there, which is basically I always used to say the phrase like, tell people, look, if you want to get in business, you gotta jump in, you gotta go in all in, because if you just try to put a foot in, if you will, in the example, there's other people that are all in already in the exact same field that you're in the exact same market that you're in. So if they're going all in and you're gonna put a foot in, and then you wonder why you can't be successful, it's not hard to understand.
No.
They're all in. But I think what you said is more relevant and more important, because what you were saying was, even if you jump in with both feet, but you're not passionate about it, those little things that it takes to be successful, those wake up at 5:30 to get to the gym, to work out one more freaking time.
Right.
Like, how many times can I work out, right? Like, those little things that it takes that just keeps adding up. When you're not passionate about it, you find reasons to not do those things. And those that are passionate about it in the exact same field, in the exact same market, bro, they're doing them. And they're happy to do them.
Right. They love it.
They're gonna destroy you
Right.
in business. Bro, that is such good truth.
That reminds me of when I was in high school. There was I went to high school in Pasadena area, California.
What a great area to go to high school.
Yeah.
Pasadena.
And actually, our field, our home field, we didn't have one at our high school.
Okay.
Was right next to the Rose Bowl.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Jackie Robinson Field.
Yeah.
So, and there's Brookside Golf Course right there.
So, I mean, you
Yeah.
should have never moved away. You're like sport heaven right there,
Yeah.
man.
So, looking back on it, and maybe if I wasn't as young, I know for a fact I wouldn't have done this, but I used to run around the Brookside Golf Course twice
Okay.
the day before my starts. That's 6.5 miles
Okay.
the day before my starts. So
that's
you
not
know,
really recommended.
No.
Yeah.
But, I did it because I wanted to have put in more work than everybody else, so that when I got on the mound the next day, I knew, and the phrase that always stuck with me was, the hay was in the barn. I'd done the work.
It was put away. It was ready to go.
Yeah, it was ready to go. So there was, and given my whole career, it seems, kind of trivial, but it was a semifinal game in high school, and started to get some traffic on the bases and stuff. And the coach I was telling you about, he comes out to the mound. He goes, "Do you think anybody else on that other team ran around the Rose Bowl twice last night?"
Wow.
And I was like, "No, probably not." And he goes, "You're going to get out of this. You've put the work in."
Yeah.
And that was so powerful right there, because it was like, man, you're right, I have.
Yep.
And that it just kind of gave me the confidence to do that, and to relate it back to what we were saying. I loved doing that. I loved running around the Rose Bowl.
You didn't mind doing it.
No. And if the guys on the other team, it's high school, like, it is what it is. They probably, I know for a fact, they weren't doing that. And I feel like that's what gave me the edge in that moment. And that you can keep applying that principle as you move up and up and up and up. Nothing ever really changes in that respect. There's always someone who's willing to do a little bit more.
Man, I'm going to give you one more example on this point, and then I want to move on to some other stuff you got going on. But including your coffee here, it smells delicious as I sit here. I'm going to apply it to a business side. Last night, I left our office. It was 8:34 p.m. that I left the office last night. Walked downstairs, got in a truck. My truck, we have reserved parking there. And at 8:34 p.m., I was walking to the parking lot, and I was thinking to myself, I get these DMs sometimes on social media of people like almost kind of in a roundabout way bashing, not bashing what I'm doing, but kind of bashing, where I'm at or whatever it is. It's kind of irrelevant to me, but my point to you is like, all they see is like this one side of social media. What they don't see is the 8:34 p.m. on a Thursday night, going home and actually still making a phone call on the way home so I could squeeze in one more phone call at 8:34 p.m. And then what was crazy was when I walked to my car at 8:34, the other cars that were still here were actually my two partners. And their cars were still here. And I'm not saying we do this every single night by no stretch of the imagination,
Right.
because you got to have balance is super important in life. But my point is, like, I actually texted them and said, hey, do you want me to go get you guys dinner or food? Like, I don't know how long they're going to be here. But when you find those types of people, it's that insane amount of putting the hay in the barn when no one else is freaking around. There's no one else to patch in the bat. There's no social media to tell you how great you are, but you're just shoveling hay. So that when the day comes, that barn's full, bro. I know my time was put in, and I have no problem doing whatever it is I need to do in business because I'm extremely confident. It's another great truth by you, which I'll give credit, I think, to, you said someone told you this, about putting the hay in the barn.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Because
I wish I could give credit for it. But
when you do that,
right.
you have confidence.
Right.
And like, again, go back to when you're on the mound. Once you kind of realize, you're like, you know what, dude, you're right. I did freaking go do extra shit when no one else was doing it.
Right.
And it kind of gives you this like burst of like self-respect and confidence to go to the next level, I think, or to push through barriers. When you know, like no one else will know, but internally, you put the time in, bro.
Yeah, and sometimes that's the only difference.
Yeah.
Between, especially the higher up you go in baseball, and honestly, whatever, the more those little differentiators are going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Because, once you get to pro ball, like, there's some levels that you see a drastic difference in maybe talent or something like that. I think the biggest separator for me, I was always told single A to double A. I thought the biggest one was in triple A because, up to double A, you've got very talented guys that maybe don't have an approach yet, whether it's hitting, pitching, or whatever. Once you get to AAA, you start getting guys who have an extremely good approach, have been around a while, and are a little bit closer at least, if not already there. And it could be the only reason they're there was because they've got the mental side so well, honed in. So that I thought was the biggest differentiator because, my stuff was pretty average. I played with lots of guys who were way more talented than I was. The thing that elevated me was the mental edge. And it all started, honestly, from high school, where, I was introduced to it at a very early age. So I was able to kind of internalize some stuff and build on it. But yeah, that there's so little. Everybody's kind of on this level, and sure, you've got some Mike Trouts or,
Bryce Harper's,
right,
Andrew Cordell, whatever.
All in the same category.
Exactly.
They're a little bit higher than the rest. But at the end of the day, I saw a lot of guys who were extremely talented and never got any further than I did.
Yeah.
Because they didn't figure out the mental side.
I want to talk about that mental side. I want you to tell a little bit of the story that we were talking about earlier about when you got into the Rockies organization, and then as a pitcher ended up, which as a pitcher is almost like a nightmare.
Right.
I mean, that's like a hitter's dream, pitcher's nightmare, right? Colorado, because of altitude. Tell that little story there about how important that mental side was. I think it was really cool.
Yeah, so I was a late round pick, and, to be honest, there was probably no plans for me to ever get to the big leagues on the front office side. But, I always said that I just need to get my foot in the door. I'll take care of the rest. So anyway, I made it up to AAA, which was really an accomplishment in itself. But AAA at the time was in Colorado Springs. And Colorado Springs, I think the elevation there is something like 7,000 feet or something like that. So in terms of pitching, traditionally speaking, it can't get much worse than that.
Yeah.
Ball doesn't move the way it should. Ball flies out of the yard, obviously, all kinds of weird things happen. So kind of at the time, if you knew you were going to Colorado Springs, there was kind of this, my numbers are going to be higher.
Which is a big thing. If your ERA is high, like that's a big thing.
Yeah.
For scouts and everything.
Yeah, baseball's a numbers game.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. But, so I get there, and, it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Not a good place to pitch. But, after maybe 2 to 3 starts, they were okay. They weren't great. I got fed up. I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not going to fall into this state of mind where all of a sudden it's okay to not be very good just because the environment's not good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not. I was just fed up. I honestly couldn't tell you what led me to that point, but
Mm-hmm.
I just decided right there, I'm done thinking like this.
Yeah.
This is a horrible way to think. And from that day on, for the next month I think it was about a month, I didn't give up a single run. In the hardest ballpark to pitch in, arguably in the country,
Yeah.
I ended up setting the record in that ballpark for consecutive scoreless innings. And I think there was also a record for consecutive scoreless innings, home and road combined, but that was just for at home. But anyway, for the month, I think I gave up one run at the very end when the streak finally ended. And kind of the funny side note of that was that during that time, I won 0 games because I also set a record that I didn't know about for most consecutive innings without any run support.
Yeah.
So when I was pitching,
That's awesome.
we literally scored 0 runs. But, you know, I think it's kind of important to note, I was so locked in on what I was doing, I didn't even realize that we weren't scoring runs when I pitched.
Yeah.
I honestly did not know. So, you know, and, you know, I guess you could call it luck. Maybe I just so happened to decide at that point, and then I went on a really good streak. I don't think so. I think
so.
I made a decision.
Yeah, there's so much of that, of like the ability to flip the switch. You hear athletes talk about all the time about flipping the switch, right? Where it becomes this internal one-on-one battle between you and yourself. And when in business and life and sports, when you get to the point where you are competing against you, and you are your driving force, is where the highest level of prime peak performance will hit at. A funny illustration, but it's a funny illustration, but kind of dumb too. If you hear Matthew McConaughey gave some speech at one of his awards, and he was talking about who's my hero, and he's like, my hero is me when I'm 65 years old. It was kind of his answer, I think, or something like that. And he was basically saying like he wants to become the man in his life that at 65 will be like a hero type model for himself. And it's that same thing. It's like you're just competing against you. Like it's you versus you, you know. And I think when athletes flip that switch, and they all have it to be at that level, period. And they all kind of flip it, period, because when you go out on a stadium or a field and you're competing against, I don't care if it's with 2,000 people in the stands or 5, there's this outside pressure. And then, of course, as it gets to major leagues, now you get into the 20,000, 30,000 people in the fans. Dude, there's a lot of people watching you and on TV talking about, you know, the games being broadcast and so forth. So all players have the ability to flip the switch to a certain degree. But those that are great, dude, they're in their own world, playing their own game, and everybody else just gets to kind of sit back and watch it.
Exactly.
Jordan, in basketball, you see it more often because of kind of how the game is played. But those greats, dude, they always were doing that stuff. I think that's where that 40 innings, because you think about 40 scoreless innings in any baseball game is a good streak.
Yeah.
40 innings scoreless in freaking Colorado
it was
Springs.
like 34. I can't
Innings or
remember
so?
exactly what it was. Yeah.
It's crazy. Now, here's what I'm talking about. Let's make this shift to real estate. You do all this stuff in baseball, and you go to the pros, you get injured, come back, so forth. And somewhere in there, you decide, I got to do something different. Take us to that journey right there. What made you want to kind of add something to it, and why real estate?
Yeah, and it probably started kind of back in college where, you know, a lot of guys would take an easier major because, you know, in baseball, like there were some of the teachers that didn't even know we had a baseball program. So it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't automatic necessarily, but there was an easier course as far as
You could choose to take.
schedules and, you know, kind of stuff like that. So, but for whatever reason, I decided like, and I wanted to take psychology because it interested me. So I kind of went off on my own path right there in terms of major choices because I wanted to at least learn something while I was there. So fast forward to shortly after Colorado Springs, I got called up, and in my third start, broke my hand. Took a line drive off the hand, broken hand.
This is a major league.
In the major leagues,
Okay.
yeah. So, you know, leading up to that, I had no money. I got a signing bonus of $1,000. making $1,200 a month, $1,500 a month. You can do the math.
But only for 5 months.
Only for 5 months, yeah. So grossing about 10 to 12,000 maybe.
A year.
Yeah. So finally get to the big leagues, and I guess the bright side of getting hurt, obviously I would have rather played, but
Yeah.
at least I got hurt in the big leagues, because then you stay up there and you continue to get the major league pay. So, broken bone, there's not a whole lot to do. Just wait for it to heal. I could keep my arm in shape. But so I had all this time. When the team would go on the road, I would stay back in Denver and just to kind of do whatever I wanted. And decided to start looking into, okay, maybe I should probably figure out what to do with this money now that it's coming in. So started where a lot of people start, stock market.
Yeah.
And started learning about stuff, and opened up a self-directed account and just kind of threw some money in there, some mutual funds and stuff like that. And what originally pushed me towards real estate was, fast forward 6 months or so, it was December, it was off season. I wake up one morning, I just happened to check my portfolio, and something had happened. I don't know what it was, but like something dropped 15%. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I had no influence over that, no control over that, and that bothered me. Couldn't understand it. And I'm now learning, books I'm reading now, just how much stuff goes on behind the scenes on Wall Street.
We have no idea about it.
We have no clue.
No clue.
Hell, they don't even have any clue.
Yeah.
So I started learning about real estate, and I was like, okay, you've got rent coming in, you've got a mortgage payment, you've got expenses, and what's left over is your cash flow. I can understand that. It's
Yeah.
I can control it to an extent. So, once I was, this would have been 2015, I was in the big leagues the whole year. So towards the end of 2015, I had a pretty good chunk of change sitting around. I was like, okay, I want to at least start learning about this by doing it. I can read as much as I want, but eventually you just got to start doing stuff. So bought my first property in Arizona to live in. My plan was to live in it in the off season, because that was cheaper than renting. And then during the season, I'd rent it out.
Yeah.
So, that was the idea. In practice, a little harder to execute that for a number of reasons we don't have to go into, but liked it. I enjoyed I liked the concept. I could understand it. I could control it. The next season, 2016, I was up for the majority of the year. And so at the end of that year, bought strictly a rental property. Started renting that out. And so started to kind of follow this pattern of live in a place. I'd basically buy one place a year, because most of my focus had to be on playing baseball,
sure.
at a pretty high level. And so it was just kind of following that pattern. So by 2017, end of 2017, bought another one, moved out of the first one, rented that out. So I had 2 rental properties and my primary residence. Original goal, just have my rental income covering my living expense, because one thing that doesn't get talked about a lot with professional athletes is that, during the season, you're in the city that you're playing in.
Right,
so you have to have a residence there. But at the same time, you may also have a residence in your home city.
Right.
So you're paying for 2 places. And, obviously you don't have to do that. You could get 6-month leases in one, but then you're constantly moving around. You're juggling stuff. So, I thought, well, at least I want my place in Arizona being paid for by the rental income, and I can, have my place wherever I'm playing. So that was the original idea. And so by the end of my career, I had 3 rental properties. There was a much better way it probably could have been done, but, I was playing baseball too. So, but I was learning a lot, and I liked it. So, that was kind of the original plan, and what pushed me into real estate.
Now, when you go through this, and while doing baseball, you're buying these single family homes.
Yeah.
You're putting down payments down and then borrowing the rest of the money.
Yeah.
And then living in it, sometimes pure rental, etc. You eventually, after 10 years of professional baseball, retire from baseball and kind of keep going down this road of like, okay, obviously I got to do something else. You didn't make enough money at that point to live forever.
Right.
Right? But you had a nice nest egg that you had built up. and you needed to look, you're looking for something else. Obviously, you go stay inside of real estate. Somewhere along the lines, you make the shift from single family into multifamily.
Right.
What makes the quick shift, really?
Well, towards the end of my career, I'm looking at the single family stuff. I'm like, okay, if I really wanted to take this to the extent where I didn't have to do anything, I could just basically, in a sense, I guess retire, I guess would be the word, and have all my living expenses paid for, what would I have to do to get there? How many single family places would I need?
So add up all your outgo and said.
Yeah, so I took my existing portfolio and was like, okay, how many times would I have to duplicate this to get there? And I was like, oh, I'd only have to buy 12 to 15 more. And one of the difficulties with being a baseball player, income is spotty, it's up and down. Banks don't like that. So, you know, if they ask, well, how much are you going to make next year? And I don't know. Good question.
You tell me.
So the issue that I identified was, how do I scale this to a level where it's not a massive headache? But scale, you know, just in a general sense, was the problem. And I knew of multifamily, and obviously there's some scale built into that, one transaction, multiple units. So after I retired, I had some more time, you know, to dedicate to it and figure out what I wanted to do. Went down the flipping route, quickly turned around and said, this ain't it. I know this is not it. Started reading more about multifamily and started to see how these deals can or are a lot of times structured through syndications and raising money, and you know, you've got investors and then you have the people who actually run the deal. I had no clue that that was even a thing. And I was, you know, on a modest scale doing that while I was playing. I'd never heard of it. So after I learned that, on the, you know, limited partner investor side, I was like, man, if I had known about this when I was making all that money, I would have skipped the single family. Sure, I may have bought a place to live in, but honestly, the way I think now, I probably would have just rented and put all my money into these LP apartment deals, and I'd probably be way better off than I am now.
I think there's a big misconception with a lot of times people in real estate, myself included when I got started. This is you know, not a dig, but it's just that I think when we first get started, we're thinking, okay, I can go buy this single family home. I'm gonna go buy this rental property. I understand it because like we've bought a home before. It's just another home, and even that a lot of times scares people. But a lot of times we start there, where in reality it's kind of what you found out was like, actually it's a little bit even sometimes less risky to have an apartment complex. Now we talk about different angles of it, but one is like a lot of the loans that you're getting from apartments are non-recourse loans. Versus a single-family home, majority of everybody out there is getting a recourse loan, which means if it goes bad, you personally owe that money. On a lot of these apartment deals, it's actually non-recourse money coming from the banks, giving you the money. So, for ballpark example, if it's a $10 million project, maybe the bank is funding $9 million of it, $8 million of it. That $8 million is non-recourse money. Well, when you talk about borrowing $8 million at non-recourse, that's some pretty good terms off the bat, right? And then, like you said, I think people get confused. That is, they're like, "Oh, I got to have this $2 million. I got to find this $2 million. I don't have $2 million, so I'm going to do single family because I only got to have 10 grand or 15 grand, whatever the number is, right?" And in reality, you kind of put the pieces together as well. It's like, well, actually, I could just get either a bunch of friends and family to come to $2 million. I could just go borrow the $2 million, get a partner who has the $2 million. And before you know it, I own $10 million of freaking real estate. And once that kind of cracks the code in someone's brain, it's hard to turn them back to single family. It's like, they're like, oh God, I'd never go back to that thing. But most people never get to crack the code, if you will.
Yeah, and I think, you know, to kind of go back to mindset, really the first domino, so to speak, was opening my mind past what can I afford. You know? Because, like you said, if I don't have $2 million sitting in a bank account, why the hell would I look at something that's $10 million?
You don't even think to go.
You wouldn't even look at it.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So that was the first domino.
That's a good point.
But you know, even And yeah, that was really what, you know, it was like this complete light bulb moment that was just, oh my
But
God, this really puts everything together.
I want to go back to this
Yeah.
because I think there's parallel from all the way back from when we started about sports from the beginning and your success in apartments, and even we're talking about cracking the code right here, if you will. When you made the shift from single family and started looking at multifamily for a second, you told me earlier that in my office that you went and started reading every book you get your hands on. You were reading about apartment syndication, multifamily, etc. And then you had another step in there where you went and actually once again paid for a personal mentor, personal coach that had experience in that exact thing, multifamily, to come on and help you go through this. If you look back at your sports career, I mean, think about it. That's like what athletes are constantly doing, right? And as
Right.
you get higher into the caliber you're at, dude, they're getting into everything from a nutrition coach to a sleep coach to like so many different things that they can find that just keeps increasing their game that they wouldn't see, but someone else can see it, you know? And you did that exact same process in real estate as well.
Yeah, and you know, the value of having someone who, number one, is doing exactly what you want to do.
I think that's a key point.
It is. And that was kind of a mistake, you know, I kind of made with the flipping. I saw it as an opportunity because I really started doing that when all the stuff in, you know, February, March 2020 started happening. I was like, maybe there's an opportunity here.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, I'm not, it's just not in my
Well, it goes
nature.
back.
You know?
You got to find what you're passionate about.
Yeah,
And I think that's core to your belief.
right.
And when you found out you weren't passionate about it, you bounced.
Right.
Like you didn't say, well, I got to go make my 12 grand back. It's like,
Right.
no, I'm out. I'm good.
Yeah,
I'll take that 12 grand as a loss, but also as a win.
right.
Because I didn't
huge
spend
win.
2 years like you talked about, right?
Yeah.
Like there's value there.
Yeah, but yeah, so you know, you think about the top athletes in the world, no matter you know what it is. You know, Tiger Woods at the peak of his career. You know, he's the best golfer in the world.
Yeah.
He probably still has a swing
He
coach.
still had a swing coach.
Probably
had a
2
swing
or
coach.
3, maybe. I don't
Yep.
know. That maybe
It's crazy. I was
So-
talking to Alan Stein about this, the coaches like Kevin Durant and those guys. He's like,
Yeah.
dude, a lot of these guys, high guys, and again, I know they can afford it, but he said, dude, they may have 5 to 7
Yeah.
personal trainers
Right,
that are with them, like do stuff for them,
right.
on top of whatever the team has. They like with their own money go hire these guys. Yeah, that's what it takes.
Right, because it just speeds up the learning curve.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the
Exponentially.
point of it too, is the speed of which you can accomplish something.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the apartment complexes, right? Let's just if I can tell the
Yeah.
story a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you had this idea like in September or something, like, wait a second, I need to kind of rearrange and not do single family, not do flipping, and move into multifamily. We are, as we sit here in February, you went from never have done an apartment complex in your life to you are sitting here in this room with the apartment complex under contract. Literally as we sit here.
Yep.
$8 million, I think, apartment
Yeah.
complex. You
Yeah.
have under contract right now.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when you were originally supposed to come on this show, which was last month, you
Right.
had to rearrange, call and reschedule because your due diligence period was like during that time frame right there.
Right.
Okay, but if we talk about, yeah, but how did you get there that fast? There's lots of things we could talk about, not just one thing, but one of them, you hired a personal coach trainer
Right.
that's sped up that process. Like, I don't know, you tell me how long you think.
It's hard to even put a number on
Because it's
it.
hard to even say, would you have ever even done one?
No, I
I agree with you.
There's-
Realistically,
and again,
probably
there's-
not.
There's so many things we could talk about there because, you know, the cost of hiring the coach or the mentor,
Yeah.
this one in particular was just like it paid for itself in literally like 3 weeks.
yeah.
And you can't assign a number
Uh-huh.
to the knowledge, but it was just it was so rapid. Just
Mhm.
having conversations with someone who's doing exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I don't know. It could have shaved years off. Hell,
It's hard. It's
after-
literally
it's-
hard to understand
Yeah,
how much it helped you.
yeah,
And I agree. I mean, and look, I'll play the devil's advocate. I've also hired coaches that didn't work out. I
Sure.
understand. Like, Tiger Woods has also fired his swing coach.
Sure.
Like, dude, I get it. But the point is, the point stands, undeniable. Find high-level successful people. You will find they have coaches, mentors, trainers, et cetera. And this feels like I'm trying to sell a coaching. I don't even have a coaching program. Like, I'm not here to be your coach.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you.
Right.
I interview successful people.
Right.
When I interview successful people, they have trainers. They have coaches.
Yeah, and
Like, if you want to look for common denominators, that's one of them.
Yeah, and we can talk about the application of principles from baseball and just success in general. None of my baseball skills are applicable, literally,
Right.
to anything else.
Sure.
Like, you take me to a carnival, yeah, maybe I can win you a prize. But other than that,
Yeah.
what am I going to do with that?
Right.
I've got a college degree, but in psychology, am I going to be a psychologist?
Right.
Sports psychologist, maybe, I don't know. But I think the key there is that without having hired a mentor or coach or having someone to speed that up, there's just no way
Now,
that
if
I would
someone-
be sitting here right now.
I 100% agree.
Or I guess a year. What year is it?
2021.
About
I know it's tough.
a year and a half after having retired.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
If someone want to follow you more on the apartment side, what you got going on, deals you're looking at,
Yeah.
et cetera, right? Where is the best way for them to find you on to stay in touch with you?
Yeah, MulliganValleyCapital.com is the name of the my
your
apartment
website?
company. Yeah,
Mulligan
Valley
Capital.com
Yep.
is the website they can go to for apartment
Right.
information.
Right.
Okay.
And you can, I do, blog posts and stuff on there. I've got a guide on there that's specifically kind of geared towards baseball players as far as, educating them on stuff like multifamily things that I had no clue about.
Yeah.
But it can really apply to just about anyone. It's a free ebook. It's called the Professional Baseball Player's Guide to Investing.
That's cool.
Goes over some, not very in depth on any one thing, but just introduces things and gives a way to kind of build a foundation.
Yeah.
It's not the way to do anything, but there rarely is one way to do anything.
Yeah.
It's just a foundation. So you go there, plug in your email. You can get the free guide and stuff like that. And I do weekly blog posts.
So that the free guide
Yeah.
that you're talking about, that's on the Mulligan
Yep.
ValleyCapital.com.
Yep.
That's the thing you get it at?
Yeah.
And you wrote all of it?
Yeah.
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 I got your coffee here, which I want to talk to you about. Before I do that, though, let's go back just for a second here. And I want you to give maybe the viewers a little bit of ingredients of something you had to go through and like kind of what it takes to get through something. You spend your whole life basically from probably 5 years old to whatever, however
30.
old you were, 30,
31.
when you hit
I
the
guess.
major league
Oh, yeah.
Rockies at the major league level. God knows how many hours, time, pitching, weight rooms, running, food that you gave it. Like, you finally get there.
Right.
The peak of what you had put all the effort into. And you kind of told the story earlier, 3 games later, you get hit by a freaking line drive, which is pretty rare for pitchers. It's,
Yeah, I got hit a lot, but
yeah, I mean,
but
batters
not
get
common.
hit.
Yeah.
Batters get hit more.
Yeah.
It's not rare. It's not common that pitchers
Right.
are just beamed with line drives, right?
Right.
Your 3rd game up, you get a line drive, break your arm. Then later in your career, you tear your oblique. You're back in the major leagues. You tear your oblique, put you back on 60-day ADL. To the amount of like disappointment, not failure. You had achieved the level, and then life just kicks you right in the freaking teeth, man.
Right.
Right? At least you got to go to DL. Then you go to back to the minors. Then you got to come back up. Then back, like all that stuff, dude. When people go through defeats, right, failures, what do you see as some of the like core ingredients that helps people get through that dark time?
I would say that, first of all, and it's kind of unique with the injury, but you have to take responsibility. Responsibility is, I think, the real key to that for where you are and where you're going to end up next. Obviously, well, ultimately I could take responsibility for that ball that got hit off my hand.
You did throw the pitch.
I threw the pitch. I threw it middle away, and he hit it back at me.
On that side.
But, I guess responsibility and not blaming
others,
outside things for my misfortune. Because if you think that, I did everything I could, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
There's nothing I need to do to change.
Right.
Even though I don't like where I'm at right now. The number one thing is to take responsibility for where you are at that time.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, it is in your power to change it. 100%. I didn't like that I got hit in the hand.
Sure.
What could I do about it at that point? I could heal it. I could be a good teammate, when the team's, when they're there. I can learn about something new. You can take advantage of that downtime. And, sometimes it's hard to trace that butterfly effect, because had I never taken responsibility for myself or finances or whatever, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. It was all from a broken hand.
Yep. Sure.
You never know where that's going to lead. So I think most important thing is you can't blame others for where you are. You are where you are because of what you've done.
I think that it's so unique that you brought that up as like one of the core ingredients, because again, I go back to just my fortunate career where I'm at. What I would tell you is the ingredient you said is the core ingredient, a core ingredient that makes people like you super successful. Is that it's like when I ask you, well, how do you deal with failures? Oh, personal responsibility. It's like, what? Like, but when you find successful people, athletes, gymnasts, it doesn't matter, right? Baseball players, business owners, okay. They always look internally first. Like, win or lose, they don't blame out first, or maybe ever. They literally are coming internally first and say, okay, in this victory or in this loss, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? Where did I make my mistake at? And they're constantly internally searching to become a better blank, whatever that is.
Right.
I just think it's so unique that, it goes again to just who you are as a successful person, that when I said, tell me about how to get through failure, you said personal responsibility. Like, not, well, first cry. Like, it was like, no, I just look internally. And I think it's just such a reflection on who you are as a person and as a successful baseball player and real estate investors. I think that's one of those core ingredients in life.
It is, because if, we kind of touched on this, you learn way more from your mistakes than you do from your successes. Some of the worst games I ever had, I learned the most from, because you figure out, well, that didn't work.
Not going to do that again.
And, we talked about this too, especially with pitching. After the ball leaves your hands, so much, everything's out of your control.
That's all you can do.
So
that's it.
Those games that go well, a lot of times you can't even take anything from that, because it's like, this all went well, but I threw that pitch right down the middle,
right,
and he swung and missed.
It's funny. It's like a no-hitter. Obviously, the pitcher gets all the credit for it.
Sure.
There were 27 outs, though, that someone accounted for it. Now, maybe the pitcher made 7 strikeouts.
Right.
But even in that, someone else was still involved, right? And even if you had 7 strikeouts, there's still 20 other times that someone else had to go actually help you achieve what you achieved as in a no-hitter. But the pitcher, in that example, gets the credit, glory for it. But
what do you learn from a no-hitter?
Yeah.
It was the pitcher who threw it. And that's why, a no-hitter is such a rare thing, I think, because you look at every one, there's always a little degree of maybe a little luck in there.
Some crazy plays that were made,
and
right?
that doesn't take away from the pitcher.
Yeah.
It's just, that's kind of one of the ingredients you almost need.
Yeah.
Because it's just so hard to do.
I have always said that, make no mistake, I believe that in business, there is a degree of luck,
Yeah.
karma, whatever you want to call it. I do believe there's a piece of it,
Yeah.
not a piece that you can bank on,
No.
not a piece that you should bet on. But I'm just telling you, there's a piece of it that there's an ingredient of a certain percent that is luck that goes into it.
Sure.
But in that luck, I'm going to go back to remember that person put themselves in the position to receive the luck.
Exactly.
Like, they didn't do nothing and then they got lucky. That is not what I'm saying. I'm
Right.
saying they did everything they were supposed to be doing, and as they became more successful, there was some luck involved in it. But they did put themselves in that room, in that environment, in that place to create, to receive the luck, if you will. I want to ask you about money is here for a second. And before I do that, one more topic I want to go through, which is the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you brought this in today. I didn't know you had it, and you brought it in. Smells freaking delicious, and I'm not a coffee guy. The times that I have sipped, I told you about tasting coffee, has been the light, of course. I think it's pretty common. Side of it there. What is this?
So when I was playing for Seattle, I was
Okay.
obviously up in a
Sure.
coffee place. Started to learn more and more about it. Really enjoyed it, and learned what made coffee good and what made coffee bad. And so I started. Actually, I had a French press and a stainless steel, like camping one.
Yeah.
So I started going around to local roasters in Tacoma and Seattle. I'd buy their coffee and I'd bring it on the road with me because I was sick of the pods or the nasty thing. So I started making it on the road, and before I knew it, my teammates were showing up. I'd kind of give them a taste here and there. They were showing up at my hotel room door.
Yeah.
They were like, "When do you open tomorrow?" So I was like, 10 o'clock, come by, I'll have some coffee for you. So, once I was done playing, took some time to just relax because I realized, man, I haven't not thought about this season or the next season my entire adult life.
Yeah.
So I took some time. I was like, maybe I'll just kind of chase down this coffee stuff, see if I like roasting it. So I got a roaster, and I started roasting coffee and really enjoyed it. So just kind of started giving it out to friends and family. They really enjoyed it. So it's a way to, we kind of talked about having balance.
Yeah.
So much is analytical, especially with apartments and stuff like
Very
that.
numbers driven.
Numbers and stuff like that. There's also numbers involved with coffee in terms of roasting, but there's also an art to it, and it's almost like a Zen thing. It sounds stupid.
No, I totally get it.
It sounds stupid, but sometimes I enjoy being up at 10 o'clock at night bagging coffee, because it's just like monotonous.
It's almost brainless.
Yeah.
And you just get to go do something that's like, sometimes I find myself doing the most random things.
Yeah.
And I just almost am at peace for that moment.
Yeah.
Like nothing else is going on but doing X, whatever it is. This morning, this is funny, dude. Like literally talking about what you're talking about. This morning I had 1,000 things going on. My office was a disaster from yesterday. I had a show, and then I had a sneaker show. I had an interview, then I had a sneaker show, then I had a card show, then I had a meeting that went to 8:30, and at 8:30 I'm like, dude, I just gotta leave. Like it was crap everywhere. And and then of course you were coming in this morning, and I found myself this morning organizing chairs in the training room, like making sure they were like perfect. And I remember asking myself, like, what are you doing right now? Like they were already in, but I was like organizing them. I'm like, you got all this other stuff, but just for whatever reason, for that like 5 minutes, I was just like in a Zen moment of like the chairs were straight, and I felt good about it. You know what I mean? Like the world is falling apart, but these chairs are straight right now, and I was very comfortable at that moment.
Yeah, it reminds me. My roommate and I, when I was in AA, we were both starting pitchers, so part of our, the day we were pitching routine, we'd clean our house that we were living in. We'd vacuum the entire place. We had this, it was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we had this big house with no furniture.
Yeah, sure.
So we literally used to play like wiffle ball in the living room.
Yeah.
And we had a blast, but we would vacuum the living room carpet and make it so that it looked like the grass lines on the field. And so we had the cleanest house of anybody, I guarantee, because we were both doing it
'Cause you're
twice
both
every
pitchers.
5 days.
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
So, but yeah, it was just
The
related
zen
to that.
moment of
Yeah.
just enjoying it. I want to ask you about money is,
Yeah.
and we got a picture here with you with the Seattle Mariners up in, of course, Washington. And so you just put your answer here, whatever that is, and then put the big John Hancock here. If you still silent your number, dude, give me your number.
I had too many numbers
If not,
to put
then
it
don't
on
worry
there.
about it. There's that, and then I'll give you the Sharpie here. There you go. Favorite part of the show. Got it?
Yep.
There's the Sharpie back. And now we'll do the sign here. Oh, yeah, it's a very, very, very good word. And we're going to have a good conversation on this one. His answer is Christian Bergman, professional baseball player, apartment investor, says money is a conduit. Money is a conduit. This is a tremendous answer, and I have spent a lot of time thinking about that word right there. I come from a family, my dad's side was electricians. So the word conduit, pretty familiar with it. Why do you say money is a conduit?
Yeah, it starts with the whole reason we do, we don't want to admit it, but the whole reason we do anything as far as a career is, to acquire money so that we can do the things we want to do, pay for the things, obviously to stay alive, the basic needs and stuff like that, but also get the things that that we strive for. So for some people, money is maybe the goal, but it's not the end goal.
Yeah, it can't be.
No, because if you just acquire a pile of money, it's a useless pile of paper or digits on a screen until you use that money to do something else with it. So the reason I say conduit is because it causes you to, at least it should, look into things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily have looked at before. So, not that I started playing baseball to make money, because horrible chance of success.
Yeah, the odds are low.
Yeah, but obviously it's a byproduct of that, but the sense of responsibility that I took to figure out what to do with that byproduct caused me to look in another direction and figure out the best way to deploy that, and et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, when I think of, I just love the answer, man. I think about conduit, I always think about a flow through. Right, and I believe that when money is still, or we hoard money, money dies. Money has to be in constant movement. It has to be in flow, and it doesn't matter if you are using the conduit to go invest in apartments like you do, or other investments, or you're using it and it's flowing through the conduit of charity and donations and giving it away.
Exactly.
But it has to be in motion. It has to be in motion, man. And when that is not in motion, and you can take other things, like you take a baseball. A baseball is useless until it is in motion. And when that baseball is in motion, the game is created. You can put all the players on the field, have them stand in all those positions, have the batter get to the plate. But until that ball is in motion, it's just a bunch of dudes standing on a field. Like there's nothing happening, right? And so much of money is, it has to flow in a conduit. And I also think that we have a personal responsibility. Go back to that term that you used earlier. I think that we have a personal responsibility to be a conduit of money. I think the idea of stacking up cash is a stupid, horrible, miserable life that you're going to live. I think that we have a personal responsibility to be a conduit and use money for good. And so I think your answer, man, is just dead on accurate as to what money really is. Money should be a conduit. It needs to be a conduit. Man, Christian, it's been great having you on. It's been a great experience all day with you. Coming all the way from Arizona, which fortunately you flew versus a bus ride this time.
Yeah,
and
I'm a horrible passenger now due to all those bus rides.
Death experiences. And but man, I love having you on, and hopefully to get you back up here to do some more stuff with us. And we got some webinars, so hopefully we can do with you and spend some more time with you. You guys make sure you follow him. Of course, his website being Mountain.
Mulligan Valley Capital.
Mulligan. I had Mountain. Mulligan Valley Capital.com. And then your Instagram handle, which you're verified on Instagram right now.
Yeah.
What's your Instagram?
C Bergman 36.
Just use your first initial.
Yep.
C Bergman, last name,
Yep.
number 36.
Yep.
C Bergman 36 on Instagram. You guys can follow him on Instagram as well. You guys watched the show, man. I hope you enjoyed it. This is the Money Is Show, and we'll see you next week on the Money Is Show.